That was a great interview, Jeff. Now finally, where can I find your website?
I don't have a website.
What?
I just never got around to making one.
You know what? I can't take you seriously with an attitude like that. I am extremely disappointed in you. To not have a website is irresponsible, lazy, you lack ambition. I mean, where's the vision?
Don't be like Jeff. Be responsible. Get out there and shine with a beautiful website by Web Orchard, where they will take care of all of your website needs. Go to theweborchard.com right now and get a beautiful website you deserve.
You know what? Get out.
Hi guys, and welcome to the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast with me, Alex Whiteley. And this is our new free-form version of the show, moving away from doing the seasons. You're now going to get a podcast every week, which is a great opportunity for Shrewsbury to showcase its amazing talents, its amazing artists, its amazing businesses, and whatever is just crack-a-lacking in the town. I love it. It's fantastic. So if you know somebody that wants to come on the Shrewsbury Biscuit, if you want to come on yourself, then please get in touch because there's so much to talk about. Now, today's episode I've been holding on to for about 3 weeks, and apologies for that, but I knew that the season format was coming to the end. I needed something strong to finish with, and it was a time-sensitive thing. But this is an amazing guest to bring to you today's showcase, and it's the amazing Jacob Chandler. He is a sculpture artist who is just absolutely it's just shaking the foundations of art across the UK and across the world. His work has been showcased all over the world, and today I'm at Soulton Hall. I'm going to find out all about the art that he's displaying today. But please give Jacob Chandler a quick Google. Do a bit of a read whilst you're listening to this podcast, just to get the full extent of the work that he does. So yeah, I'm not gonna waffle on too much. I'm gonna go straight into this episode. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy the new freestyle format of the biscuit. And yeah, I'll catch you at the end of this one for a quick goodbye. But ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Jacob Chandler. Enjoy. So we're at the amazing Soulton Hall, which is the last time I was here was for Sam Pooley Stride's Season of the Moon 2. It's an amazing space for art. I think anything you can put in here just looks fantastic because of the backdrop. And I'm here with Tim, who lives at Soulton Hall. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Alex. Yes.
What does it offer to you to bring something like this to Soulton Hall?
Well, my family are really aware that we have quite an important story to share here culturally, that it has like international importance because of Shakespeare connections and also the connections to the Geneva Bible and the legacy of Sir Rowland Hill. And that heritage is complex and needs to not be gate-kept, but also has to be explained in a relatable way to everybody, because it can get quite deeply intellectual quite quickly, because the house is in mathematical codes that go into 4D maths and things that Rowland Hill was interested in, and sometimes people want to just have a more simple story told.
See, I had no idea of the complexity of the hall itself, until it's been explained. That's how important it is.
Yeah. So a good way of thinking about the house is like a USB stick of important information during a dangerous time, chucked in a hedge in Shropshire, because that's where it's going to be safe. But yeah, Rowland Hill is navigating the political and theological danger of the Tudor Reformation period. So he's on the Privy Council with Henry VIII, and at that council table, Cromwell is sat there, and we're recording this whilst Wolf Hall is going out. He's going to die. Edward Somerset's there. He's going to be executed as well. And Rowland Hill is just picking a path very carefully through all of this controversy, and he has the inquisitional powers for both dispensations. So he cares about ideas and harmony and kindness above everything else, and the protection of culture. And the way you do that is in art, because it's upstream of politics.
And it's very prevalent and today, especially we talk about Shrewsbury, what's going on with the Hive, participate in all the riverside developments are gone now. It seems to be that there's lots of spaces, I wouldn't say being taken away, but being sort of transformed for artists at the moment. So it's like, it feels like there's a lot of artists at the moment just trying to figure things out at the moment, and that's quite important.
Well, we need to honour artists because they're an incredibly important part of our culture, and if we don't look up, like, what's it for? Like, we don't just sleep, eat, go to work. Like, we have souls that, and Shropshire's really not very good at handling identity work, and investing and nurturing art is a good way of doing that. Like, half of a Shakespeare play, Henry IV Part 1, is set in Shrewsbury. Nobody really marks that. That's not manifested in our art. If you visit Shropshire from outside, you don't get that. There are perfectly sensible, though not necessarily universally accepted, connections between Romeo and Juliet and Hodnet. This place here is the setting of As You Like It by William Shakespeare. Like, meeting the unmet needs of people who aren't here is an important part of our economy, and the way we reach those people is through art. So we have to look after artists.
And we're about to look at Jacob's work, which is, this commission is there's a lot of Shakespeare themes behind it, which is again steeped in tragedy and passion and emotion. And when we look back at human beings 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 400 years ago, all feeling the same emotions that we feel today, but interpreted in their own way from the styles of that period. Like you said, the art is steeped in culture.
So to take that forward, Alex, at this house on a pavement, there is the choreographic notation for a dance. And the old Sir Rowland who built Soulton Hall is the old Sir Rowland who is the father of Orlando in the play. And Shropshire is inside the Forest of Arden, so we are at the setting of this play, but also with the dance of harmony that concludes that play, recorded in the building, in the actual stones of where we are. And the dance is talking about, like, tolerance, pluralism, respect for each other, and it's like itself a really ancient piece of art that goes back hundreds and thousands of years, actually, before Shakespeare's time anyway. It's a mathematical graph on the floor.
Well, I'd love to bring a microphone back out sometime and spend a good hour looking at parts of the house maybe, and you explaining and showing me like what it actually all means. Yeah. Would you be up for that with the biscuit?
Yeah, very happy to do that. So the scholarship that I've been setting out is work by James D. Wen for a consultancy that my family have supported to do this privately, because it's just fallen to us, because this is the heritage is everybody's, but we happen to be in the stirrups in the house. So our blog and website helps people with that, some illustrations there and some sort of 3D models and some geometry and things, which if you and your listeners are able to access, they'll get a sense of what Rowland Hill is driving at and why the house is in a set of interlocking codes. But yeah, talking them through is a lovely idea, and I'd be very happy to do that with you.
Brilliant. What do you think of Jake's work here? Have you enjoyed having this at Soulton?
Yeah, we have. So, I mean, Sam's exhibition was excellent. That was a great deal of fun to do that. We went to the Barrow with that.
That was amazing. That the way that was set out. Honestly, I could have sat in there all night.
Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful space, and it's, as I've said, my family care about art and artists for the reasons I've set out. I would say Jacob has done the definitive modern rendering of what the dancers in As You Like It should look like. There's quite a lot of quite sort of syrupy Victorian versions of a love story that could feel a bit sentimental, but this installation is showing the smoke in the room. We've got neon lighting, like effects implying sparking
Chaos.
Yeah, chaos and dystopia. Yeah. But As You Like It as a play starts with a world like that. Orlando, the main romantic lead, he's been denied an education and his brother's going to burn him alive in his bed. The kingdom's been usurped by a wicked duke who's stealing people's property. It's a bad place. The country's come to a bad place. And then they run away to Shropshire, because it's bucolic and beautiful and all the rest of it, to fix the lack of harmony, which they do. Then they all fall in love, then they dance, and then they fix the country. And that's what As You Like It's telling you. But if you don't set out the dystopia and the chaos and the claustrophobia of a bad political setting and cruelty, then you can't get why they have to run away or why fixing things would mean so much.
Why things change. This is a weird, Paul, but it kind of reminds me. It reminds me of Judge Dredd.
Yeah, well, no, but also like V for Vendetta, the same
that kind of thing,
sense.
yeah.
But if you don't, and if your listeners are trying to get their head around As You Like It, which is a Shropshire play, please get your heads into it. Kenneth Branagh did an amazing version of it that like Rotten Tomatoes has given some mixed reviews for, but I think it's superb because it takes you through the political chaos. It's set in Japan, but it takes the play and shows you bad, cruel government and people having to run away from it and then working out what good would look like and then making it happen. And that's not irrelevant to your commentary about loss of space for artistic expression and all of the rest of it. We do need to understand that on a civic level that, sure, we have to have businesses that make money and capitalism is what sustains things, but we don't live by the bread alone, right? We have to think about scholarship and art and the life of the mind and all these other things, because otherwise life is just paying the mortgage.
Well, we talk about Bayer and McDonald's and the big corporations out there. They all have art on their products. They all have graphic design, and that was all created by artists. These multi-billion-pound Marvel movies that that make hundreds of millions, they're all created by artists.
You're interviewing me not that long after His Majesty's coronation, when people had been sort of gainsaying art and all the rest of it, but how many musicians and theatre technicians and media graduates, etc., do you need to be able to make a global, really powerful artistic statement that affects the identity of the country? Of course art matters, and it's Rowland Hill in his time shows us this, because he funded arts commissioning in Ludlow for the St Catherine's Fair, and he realised that the collapse of the common weal in the Renaissance period, where you basically closed down all the monasteries, which, not taking a position on that theologically, but it does mean that the hospitals have gone, the education provision has gone, arts commissioning has gone, the mentally ill can't be cared for anymore.
All that important infrastructure in...
Yeah, and it was necessary because there had been a abrupt change to it to fix it and reimagine what it looked like. In some ways, I don't want to get too political, maybe we're occupying a similar headspace at the moment, and it's really important what you're doing in highlighting the importance of these other non-spreadsheety bits of what a culture is.
Yeah. Well, I've just come back from Drawn up on the flax mill. I'm going back there tomorrow. A lot of independent artists, and one of the things I was talking about, which I think is really, really important to talk about, is there's a cost of living crisis at the moment. So how does an independent artist price themselves in the chaos that is today's financial society? Because 1 minute we're up, the next minute we're down, we don't know where we stand. How does an artist price themselves,
I can't really help with that part of the practice, but I can say that you have a choice. You could get art for your house out of a Next catalogue, or you can go and buy something that is from... there is a market. And actually the Barrow is not a completely silly example within this context. You can import Chinese marble and pay someone to laser cut some words into it, or a craftsman can carve that for you, or you can commission some stained glass. But that budget could have a large margin for poor art, right? I'm being sensitive here, or the similar amount of money spent in the local economy with an artist could give something very personal and beautiful. You might commission an artist to make a ceramic urn for ashes to go into, say, rather than buying something out of a catalogue. Yeah. And that keeps money in the local economy, is a really loving and beautiful thing to have done. But in the end, it's 50 quid difference between the two things, but one had a massive markup and isn't art.
We were just talking...
Yeah.
Very similarly, we're talking about the crap people buy off Temu or Temu, however you want to say it. But you could buy any old crap from there, or you can go to Drawn and buy some keyrings that are handmade by an artist, and you can go home knowing that is lovingly made. Do you know what I mean? That's what you're talking about. And when it comes to Jacob and his art and the commission that he's made, that's his modern interpretation of something that goes back hundreds of years, and that's why it's important. It's something that is his interpretation of a dance from a production that is so important to this county. It's woven into... Yeah.
And it helps. The fact that people talk about this in a buzzed way means the identity of Shropshire changes, and supporting an artist helps with identity, which underlyingly helps with business. So sensible arts commissioning from business and political forces like local authority or whatever, is how you upgrade the story you tell. If you want a better life, you want a renaissance, you just start asking for one and act like it's inevitable and tell a better story.
I'm trying to think of what kind of renaissance we're in at the moment. I think it's probably the TikTok era.
Well,
it's like what
I'm trying to say is, if you want one, you can have one, but you have to act like it's inevitable and be confident about
absolutely,
it.
Absolutely.
And artists will help you.
Yeah.
That's why we can't be doing it all the time, but we platform artists here because Sam, Jacob, Halima, all these artists that we engage with here, like Halima has an MBE. That's national recognition for someone local. Jacob is a coming artist. He will, I'm sure, be a collected, very important artist. And if you support him at an early career stage, or other artists at early career stages, then you've made quite a sound investment if they become important. Otherwise, you've got art that you like anyway. Right.
Exactly. Well, listen, it's been really lovely chatting to you today. Thank you for bringing, keeping the importance of this place as important as it should be, and incorporating local artists to do that, because you were talking about the local economy, you're talking about bringing on artists, you could live in that house and not give a shit, but you don't. You enjoy it. You want to.
Yeah, maybe an important. I mean, I'm not going to special plead about the tax arrangements that are going on in the country. And I respect that. An elected government does what it does, and people respond to it, right? But run correctly, country houses and properly fielded heritage assets are like embassies for a local economy. And that's like the privilege and burden of being inside that kind of machine, is that you have to kind of make it serve if you can. But we're very lucky here that the intensity of the cultural treasure that we're responsible for, with Bible translations, Shakespeare plays, Renaissance codes, means that there's a lot to field here. And if we get it right, it uplifts Wem, it helps North Shropshire, and that's how we kind of see our role, if we can get it right. So thank you for acknowledging that. And I'm just going to say, if we field our cultural treasure in Hodnett, in Wem, Ludlow, Shrewsbury properly, acknowledge the connections to Henry IV Part 1 in Shrewsbury. Half a Shakespeare play is set in Shrewsbury. Do we do the right thing by that heritage? Is there enough art about Falstaff and Hal and Henry the Hotspur? No, but we could make that art, and then people would get our town better, and they'd spend money.
I think they did a small version. It was the King. They did a small version of the Battle of Shrewsbury. It was just a fist fight.
Yeah.
They didn't go into it. It wasn't elaborate enough. It was
a big opportunity exists in the Riverside development. So as you've been saying, we have lost space for art by that change. And within the design, I'm aware that there's kind of an amphitheatre proposition being put.
That's great.
Yeah, but they're currently looking for a name for it. I suggest, in the voice of my family, you might want to honour Shakespeare with that, and then start fielding the Shakespeare connections, and maybe put a statue to Falstaff in that area, and then people coming there from the train station, okay, Darwin, Shakespeare, Life of the Mind, really buzzy place, good arts culture, and then better arts, better economy.
Brilliant. If you're listening, local authorities, that's what needs to be happening. Well, listen, let's arrange a podcast in the next a few weeks or so. I'll come around with microphones and we can spend a good hour chatting. But I think I better go and find Jacob and look at his art. It'd be interesting to speak to the guy. But thank you so much for joining me. Cheers. We're talking more about art today with Jacob Chandler, an amazing sculptor whose work you may have seen dotted about because it's so unique. But first of all, thank you for coming on the show today.
No, it's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for coming out.
Sorry I couldn't come to the event last night. I said to my wife, we've got an event. I'm going to go to Soulton Hall. Come with me, it's going to be beautiful. And she was like, I don't think so, mate. We're going for a meal.
Yeah,
she organised a meal.
Late on a Friday, it's difficult, but it's just glad you can make it.
It's really nice to meet you. But first of all, I need to find out a little bit about you. So where do you originate? Are you Shropshire based?
So yeah, I'm Shropshire based. I'm based in Telford. Basically lived here all my life.
Yeah?
Yeah, so I briefly went to Birmingham to go to uni to study architecture. I dropped out because I got really ill and thought, well, I'll follow my passion of sculpture, give it a year, and then I'll go back to uni. It's now sort of a decade on and I'm not going back, yeah.
You're doing it in a big bad way as well. What do you think were the driving, as a young artist, what were the driving forces for you to get into what you are into now?
So it was partly for me, it was my processing of the trauma of basically my life getting ripped apart by chronic illness. So this was my sort of sublimation of that trauma into a product, into something beautiful. And all of these poses capture figures sort of teetering on the edge. They are majestic, but they also could all fall over.
That is what strikes me about your work is the fine balance. Yeah. Like the one that you got downstairs that looks like it could just fall over at any point. Like,
yeah, it's all on a knife edge, and it's very much part of the message of the work.
And is this your thing now? It's like, and when did this become your thing?
So, in terms of sculpture, it was something that I always had a passion for, but the thought of studying architecture was a pragmatic approach to actually eating and having somewhere to live. The fact that I've almost fallen into this is an absolute joy. It's taken a good few years to get to this point, and I've had a lot of luck along the way. And but yeah, it's very much me now. This exhibition takes the form of an installation, which is a first for me, and it charts the course of the play through the play As You Like It by Shakespeare. So it starts in a dystopian court where the sculptures in here try to illustrate that fragility amongst the chaos and the rubble. And then the exhibition tracks through to another room, the Forest of Arden, which is where harmony is found.
As an interpretation space, I'll take some pictures and I'll get them on Instagram. It is stunning because for me it does show people moving through chaos. Like this is exactly what you're explaining right now. And I feel like that. I don't know the Shakespeare work.
No.
But as a metaphor for life, this is right up there with what we're all dealing with at the moment.
Yeah. Well, it was. I wanted some newspapers. I thought they had an effect, and then of course, like most of them are sort of at the moment not very happy news.
I see Trump there. That's great example.
There's some stuff about Trump. There's some stuff about the Middle East. It's and Ukraine. It feels very much like this is where we are at the moment, and hopefully we can restore harmony and get ourselves to a better place.
Weirdly, do you know what it reminds me of? Dory, just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
Yeah.
Just get on. You got to keep moving. Through everything that's happening around you, you've just got to keep moving and stuff. When it comes to your poses and your sculptures, how much trial and error went into them before you got them perfected?
So most of my sculptures, these 3D pieces, take about 16 weeks for me to make. So there's a lot of back and forth because I fabricate the work rather than sort of carve, which means I'll build a torso and some arms and a head, and if I'm not happy with it, I'll take a limb off and rebuild it and reposition it. So there's a hell of a lot of back and forth. There's constantly changing until the pieces just feel right to me.
Is there a lot of dance influence in this?
Yeah, so most of my work is inspired by dance. I think partly I love the variety of poses, but also the power of these people. There's a sculptor that I don't have in this exhibition, but the reference I use for it, I didn't realise that people were built in the way that this guy is built. Like, he has muscles on his muscles. It's really nuts.
Joey Swole of art.
Yeah. But then some of them are influenced a little bit more by sport. So this piece is One Giant Leap for Humankind, which was created for the Commonwealth Games. And I worked with a bladed athlete to create the sculpture, and that's a 2.5 metre version of that is in New Street, Birmingham.
This looks like a speed skater.
Yeah. And then this Poison Tension looks like sort of a muscle man, but they are dance reference other than One Giant Leap. But I enjoy giving them fairly vague titles so people can see what they want.
Yeah, and some broken pieces down here.
Yes.
Is that a representation of you or failure or what? I mean, what's that?
It's a representation slightly of me. They are pieces from my boneyard, so they're the pieces that I started working on, but I never got them right. I moved on from them. I decided they were not salvageable.
Salvageable, yeah.
Thank you for doing that.
nearly
Well,
got there.
I was struggling.
Congratulations.
But it makes the chaos a little bit more my world in terms of art, rather than just the current world in which we all live.
Yeah, I'm trying to explain to my son. He's 9. He's trying to learn to draw, and we were drawing blood dripping, just like I was showing him how gravity sort of makes fluids drop, and he's trying to draw overnight, and he got a line wrong. He's like, "Oh, it's over the eye." I was like, "But things can drop over the eye." I was trying to explain to him, like, with art, there is no failure, because you can go and get it right the next time, or you can turn it into something different. Yeah. And as a 9-year-old, he couldn't quite get the concept of that.
And this is the thing. I always think, you see the work of the great masters in museums and all these halls, and you think, how did they get it so perfect? But you don't see their pile of scrap that they discarded. You only see what's lasted and what they've allowed to exist.
I was very lucky. We were in Bruges a few years ago, and there was the Dali exhibition there, just as we happened to be there, so I got to go and see it. And they had some of his old scrapbooks. And that's just all the shit he discarded. That's what all the stuff that he thought that this is going to be no good, but people go, do you know what I mean?
And it's now priceless.
Exactly, yeah. So we'll walk through the exhibition here.
Yeah.
And what was last night like, by the way? Sorry, again, I can't be here. Was it great?
No, really, really lovely. Very, very well attended. Some sales, which is always lovely. But just... it was a little bit of ego massage, because it's been a lot of work getting this together and installing it. So to have everyone's feedback on the night is very special.
We talk about ego massage, but I've just come back from Drawn, which is an event that I've been a part of since its beginning. And I always talk about, like, as an artist, having your wares out and having the things that you made. It is almost one of the most vulnerable heart-wearing sleeve moments that you can do, because people could walk up to me and be like, what is this? Or you might not be interested at all.
Yeah, and there are people that totally don't get it, and they've expressed that to me. And I think that's, although difficult, that's the joy of art. Some people will, what is this? But other people it resonates with. So I think that's the joy of it. Although it is a vulnerable state, I think I do the work. Admittedly, it's a commission, so it's not for me. But I do the work for me. And I feel like
commissions can be harder. As content creator, I'm not going to compare what I do to what you do or any other artist, but I suppose it's my own art, my own way. But like, I've done things because I wanted to, and I've done things because I've been paid to, and I find that I flourish more when I'm doing things because it's like jazz. I just want to do it because I want to do it.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. So most of the work in that room is. With the 3-dimensional sculptures, they are just things that I've done because I want to do them. This is for the commission, but I feel like I do thrive in that environment. I've been very lucky to have sort of commission after commission for the last few years that sort of kept me going, and it's a change of pace, because there's deadlines, there's things to hit. But with this body of work especially, because it was Shakespeare, it felt like hallowed ground. There's a lot of people that are, hugely passionate about Shakespeare's work. So touching that was scary, and I felt like I really had to do the research to get it right. And
there's lots of tragedy as well in Shakespeare.
Yeah,
it's like doused in just misery and love and passion and emotion.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the best thing from the project was, I sent the photos of the work to the head of research at the Globe Theatre, and they gave it a glowing review. So I feel like I hit the mark, which is nice.
I was thinking of questions to ask at Drawn today, and don't worry, I'm not going to ask you the biscuit question, or maybe I don't know. But
I'm gluten intolerant, so.
Well, the question was earlier was if you could associate yourself with any kind of biscuit, what would you be? But. Mull on that for a sec. That's the most important one, of course. But one I was thinking of was, what drives you more, success or failure? And my wife was like, "That's kind of deep to talk about. Like, what is the most important thing, to not fail or to be successful?"
Well, I think my artistic practice is born from the failure of my body. So I'm chronically ill. I have a couple of genetic conditions. So I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which affects my entire body. My the connective tissue in all my joints doesn't work properly. So there is a disconnect. And I think that is seen in the work that I produce as well. There is a disconnect. So all of it has arisen from that sort of failure in a sense.
It's kind of beautiful in a way and quite poetic because yes, you've got these genetic conditions, but you're showing your strengths through your art, and I think what's poetic about it is it's body structures of strength. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's sort of me trying to hide my fragility behind the perfect forms.
I like that. That's really good because you're standing tall and you're moving in a different way, and that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So this is fantastic, and you had a great night last night. The Lord Lieutenant was here.
Yes. Yeah.
What was that like?
That was a real honour. It's really really special to have her here and to support the event and support what I'm doing. It's nice that she can make the time to get to this event for me.
Yeah. And what are you going to do with the pieces? Do you sell a lot around the UK, around the world? I mean, what does your work do? How far does it travel?
So I've exhibited and sold across the world. With these pieces at the moment, I think they are going to potentially move into Soulton Hall, the main building, for a short period of time. And then I'm looking to tour them across the UK. It'd be nice to go further afield, but then it becomes a logistical nightmare. They're 2 metre tall pieces of art, 1.5 meters across. Moving them is a challenge. Getting them from Telford to Shropshire to Wem is enough for now.
Well, we saw from the arts trail,
yes,
how difficult it is to move your art, and that was no easy task. And I mean, that's a really good point actually. As someone who's a sculptor, you make sculptures that people may discuss or may woo, or like we talk about, not give a shit about. I don't know, whatever. Yeah. But the boxes that were in the dingle during the summit, that got people talking.
Oh, it did.
They were like, "Oh, someone looks like somebody's thrown a trolley in the water." Some people were like, "You don't understand it." I understood it as someone who deals with anxiety and body issues and things. I understood the fragility and the strength of it. Right. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody else that feels any different, but it caused discussion. Yeah. It got people talking, and did its job.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's hugely important. I think I feel like the biggest insult is if people just walk past, have an opinion, whatever it is. Don't ignore it. And I think it was really interesting. I went to an event in Birmingham probably a year ago now, and there was a bloke that I was chatting to, and he walked past my sculpture every day to commute to work. He didn't know it was there, and that hurt.
Wow. I mean, one of my favourite conversations I had was with Charlie Adlard, creator of Walking Dead, and it was one of my first interviews. He came in my house and everything. It was one of my first times I spoke to a celebrity or whatever. And he was like, I can go to Walker Stalker, a show, a Comic-Con that's dedicated to the Walking Dead, and he could walk through the halls and people wouldn't recognise him. Yeah. They wouldn't know him because they're looking for Norman Reedus, or they're looking for the stars of the show. Do you know what I mean?
But I think I understand how that can hurt, but I don't need to be seen, and I think a lot of artists don't need to be seen. Obviously, there's the exceptions, like Salvador Dali. He was an eccentric that his image is so iconic. But,
and there's Warhol, and there's eccentric, so yeah.
But I think a lot of artists let their work do the talking, whereas, I don't really desire a position where I can't go through spaces without having mobs of fans approaching me.
One at a time, people.
Yeah. But if people show up for the work, that's all I need. And I think the work is more recognisable than me. I think more people would be able to say that's Jacob Chandler's sculpture than say that's Jacob Chandler.
I mean, as soon as I've been put onto you and your work, I can recognise that you've got such a unique style that people could see a Jacob Chandler anywhere in the world, be like, that's and that is really hard. Who was I talking about earlier? I think it's Saffron Russell. I was talking about simplicity. And I feel like simplicity is genius in some regards, because if you can simple things down, it's like taking a 2-paragraph piece of text and shorten that down to 4 words.
Yeah, and I can't remember the quote exactly, but it's something like, a great designer knows not when there's nothing left to add, but when there's nothing left to take away. I aim to create pieces that are simple, visually simple, but that is not a simple design task. Yeah.
What drives you with art, though? What kind of art do you enjoy? What makes you feel vulnerable or scared or excited away from your own art?
Yeah. For me, the most sort of moving experience that I've had is with Giacometti's artwork. So he is a massive inspiration. I saw a retrospective of his in the Tate several years ago, and I got back home at maybe 10 at night, and I just worked through the night. It was just profoundly moving. And then also Anthony Gormley, he's a huge inspiration. When I was, about 8, I went to one of his exhibitions at the Hayward Gallery in London, and you entered this room filled with smoke, and people would appear out of it sort of a metre away from you and then disappear back into the smoke. And then the exhibition culminated as you went up to the rooftop, and he had figures dotted across the city skyline, and then you step back and you realise you're also now one of those figures dotted across the skyline, and it's just very clever. It's just really very clever. So that's what really inspires me. Yeah.
I think sometimes, so I'm going to talk about Sam Pudi-Stride, who last time I was here, it was a Seas of the Moon, which was a beautiful evening. This is why I was so good I couldn't come last night, because that was my last experience here. It was such a great night. But like one of the most rock and roll things she did is she broke into what is now being knocked down, the Riverside. Yeah, okay. And she used one of the disused, I think it was old pound stretcher or something like that. Yeah. And she did her Seas of the Moon 1 in there when she really wasn't supposed to, and it got shut down by the police and everything. I don't know if you...
I know that the police are being called on it, which is incredible.
And that's like, that for me is like, that's art in itself.
It's rock and roll.
That's proper Sam Pudi-Stride. And I've been talking about her a lot today because she's doing the Swan Hill Studios thing in Shrewsbury, and we had a bit of a mix-up with our schedule, and I remember I turned up to Swan Hill Studios, and she just walked the dog, apparently the builders next door. They were like, oh yeah, she's gone out, and I was like, okay. So I messaged her, I was like, I'm gonna have to go because I'm gonna have to go to Soulton Gallery. I think I was going to try and get a Charlie Adlard book signing, right? And then she messaged me like, oh effing hell, sorry, I'm effing hell, and I was like, that's got to be Sam Pudi-Stride. And we're talking about Swan Hill Studios and studio spaces itself. I know you're Telford based, but in Shrewsbury there seems to be like this decline in spaces being offered to artists to do their thing. Riverside's been knocked down, so Participate's gone. Raven Studios is gone, and the Hive is under pressure, right? So, I mean, do you feel like there is a space for artists at the moment? Do you think there's a way that they can flourish at the moment?
I think it's a massive challenge. I think the last government we had basically said artists are pointless and should retrain. And I think
would you like to be an accountant?
And I think that's felt across society. If you have people at the top saying there's no point, it trickles down. And while there's a lot of people that absolutely rile against the statement, it's still heard. It was still a soundbite that a lot of people, took on board. And it's really difficult because it is seen as a luxury to be able to create art, I think. But I think it's essential. If you look at everything around you, everything is designed, everything is thought about. If you speak to Tim from Soulton Hall, the level of thought and design that went into building this place, it's profound, and that is what art is. This building is art, this space is art, and it's what outlasts human experience. You look at artists from 300 years ago, and it gives you an insight into the culture at that point, and it's scary to think what people in 300 years will look back at today and say,
look at these beams. I mean, that's a carpenter, that's art. Yeah, that's art. And when it comes to the door over there, graphic design, there's a graphic design sign above that door. People always, I roll my eyes at graphic designers, Shane Chebsey, one for the other. I used to send him like logos I do for podcasts, and he'd be like, well, the font is different here, and this line doesn't, that these are two different colours. I'd be like, but he's right. Yeah. Graphic design and art is everywhere. It is, and it's like, it's not just in the physical forms of art. You've got music, you've got photography, you've got poetry, you've got literature. It's like, it is based in our soul as a human being. So to take that away is a real crime.
And we've been doing it as long as we've been sort of in existence. You can see people making their handprints on walls of caves. It is profoundly human, and to deny that, it's just short-sighted.
It's criminal. It's criminal.
Yeah.
But you know, there are obviously young artists now that are out there trying to make a name for themselves or to start. And one of the things I'm talking about with my son, obviously, he's like experimenting with. He's trying to draw Venom properly and Deadpool and stuff. And if he gets it wrong, when it comes to an artist in today's world, what bits of advice would you give them to sort of get off the ground?
I think just if you have a passion for it and you love what you do everything you can to make it happen. So, for example, you might think that I have a massive studio, but most of my work is created in a room that's about 2 meters squared. So, admittedly, these large prints weren't, my public sculptures aren't, but I don't have a space big enough to make my public sculptures. I send them out. I got my niche making things in a 2 meter cube box, and it's still my happy space. When I shut myself away in that place, time passes differently. So just give it a go. Give it a go. And it's so hard. You've got to be everywhere. You've got to do everything. You know, I always say to myself, I'm going to get really good at social media because that's where I need to be. And it's so difficult because you get pulled in every direction. You're not just making content. You're not just making art. You're also, got to do marketing. You've got to do everything.
Posters,
everything.
Learn how to do links.
Yeah. Your accounts or
people are talking about AI at the moment, and it's a big thing, especially with art and literature and stuff. But I feel like it's also a great tool as well. If it's a time saver, if I'm like one of the readout for the podcast, the write out for it is one of the hardest things for me because I feel like people are going to judge me. They're going to judge my grammar and all sorts of. So I just chuck it into ChatGPT. Clear this up for me, and it pops it back, and I chuck it in there. I don't mind telling you people that's why I do it, because I don't have time now, right? I'm a busy guy. But when it comes to AI with art, that's a different thing.
Well, I think AI is having its moment in the spotlight. People are very wowed by it, but I feel that it's not going to last. I think the reason why art is powerful is because it's a human experience.
Yeah, sure.
In the same way that NFTs were a massive hype.
The NFT bros, yo, bro, I've got a great business idea for you.
And it blows my mind that I think AI made. I don't know. Some robot made a piece of art and it's just sold for $1 million or pounds.
Yeah,
and that's nuts. But I don't think it's going to last. I think it's a flash in the pan. I hope it's a flash in the pan.
But the thing is, when you talk about AI creating art, and I get it, I totally get it, but printers have been doing that for decades. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I get
And they still can't be hands yet, so it's fine.
Yeah. I remember the first, because I went from doing a weekly show to seasons, which I'm going back to doing the weekly show. But the first season, I got some AI generated piece of crap music because I was like, oh my God, I haven't got intro music. Yeah. It was so bad. So then I started using local artists and asking them to make me music, which is so much better.
Yeah.
What this was going to lead on to is Shropshire as a place, as a base for artists and art culture. Do you think there's been growth? Do you think it's been statically sort of good, or do you think like there's room for improvement?
I think it's growing massively. Whether that's just because I've got slightly more of a profile at the moment and that's allowed me to connect with more people, I don't know. But I think the perk is a lot of artists are moving out of London. It's too expensive. Shropshire still has a little bit of space and it's way more affordable than London. So, who wouldn't want a massive studio compared to a tiny little box somewhere in central London? And I would also love to have a London space, but it's not feasible. And I love the countryside. This is very much my home.
And I imagine it's hard to stand out in a place with so many artists and so much culture around you.
Yeah, I think it's one of the pieces of advice that I got given when I was starting out was, I've put my roots here and sort of I'm growing rings like a tree every year and I'm spreading out across the country. So this is my basin. I've got as far as Birmingham now. I've done some stuff in rugby. It's moving further afield, but it's just time and growth, and I'm not rushing to sort of spread my wings everywhere. I've had shows in sort of New York and Athens and Moscow, but I love being local because I get to see people locally, and I'm doing workshops today, and I get to, chat to young people and help them just play, because that's what this is.
I love that. Just play, have fun with it. Yeah. How does your work translate universally? I mean, you talk about Americans; they have a very different view on art as we do. I mean, but this is body form. How did they take it?
It's the Americans have been very receptive. One of my sort of best collectors is an American lady, and she's been very supportive of me. Bought quite a few pieces, so it's a market that I'm dipping my toes into. I would like to get over there a little bit more. I think the American economy is a lot stronger than the UK at the moment as well, so it makes the things that we have to offer look cheap in compared to what they've got. So it's a market that I do need to explore, but again, it's
logistics.
It's something else that needs to be learnt, but I'll get there.
I'm seeing lots of different types of media. Like you've got these amazing paper prints. We've got your statues over there. There's a big sculpture outside, and then we've got this beautiful copper, stainless steel. They're amazing 3D. What would you call that?
They're my relief sculptures. So they can be hung on a wall, but they aren't two-dimensional. They come off the metal plate, and
it's brilliant
because it's got a reflective back. You can almost see into the third dimension in the reflection, which is so you can see the other side of this plate, even though that there isn't something there. There is no reflection, and it's sort of playing into another dimension, which has been really fun to explore.
Is there anything you can't do? Is there a bit of art that you're like, I'm just not very good at that? I can't do pastels, can't do chocolate.
I'm not great at drawing. My skills at sort of pencil drawing is like I couldn't draw a portrait. I couldn't draw Venom. I have my style, and I've worked on that, so I can do figures in my style. But if you asked me to do a pencil drawing of a portrait, I think I would struggle. It's been a while since I've tried. I like pastels, chalk pastels, but I think I'd really struggle with pencil drawing still.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting, isn't it? That everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, even in fine art. You know?
Yeah.
But I feel like I would say, like, what I'm seeing right now is the balance and the accuracy of the body form, even though it's triangles and sharp shapes.
Yeah.
How hard is it to get to that level of accuracy?
Well, I find it really difficult to say because it's what I do. So I've done this for years.
It's just what I do.
So for me, it's almost second nature. Like, there's a lot of research, there's a lot of time, but maybe it's just because I enjoy it and I don't mind spending the time that it passes differently. I'll get phone calls when I'm in the garage saying it's 8 o'clock, come up for food and stuff. But I don't know. I've wandered astray there, haven't I?
No, it's fine. No, because it's a vocation. Like I was talking about earlier, is about doing things because you enjoy them and not feeling like you have to get out. This is the third time I brought this up today. Actually, is about. I was talking to Andrew from Humans of Shrewsbury. Went for a coffee yesterday. Nice guy. He took my portrait as well. And I was talking about, like, I do the Shrewsbury Biscuit because I enjoy it. Like, I don't wake up and I suffer from social anxiety. Before I went to drawing this morning, I was kind of like, oh my god, people. But then once I've got that momentum, I'm fine. Yeah. With a microphone in my hand, I love it. Right, this is because I do it, and it must be the same with you when you're making these things. And it's like, if you don't have that artistic sort of drive, or you don't have that thing that you enjoy, whether it's accounting or whether it's whatever, I don't think you'll ever understand.
No.
because you do it just because you can.
Yeah.
I think one of the greatest scenes in cinema is like that scene of Tony Stark in the office in his garage when he's got AC/DC on and he's like throwing these things around. And he's got the holograms and that's me when I'm editing. That's you when you're that is when you're in the zone, right?
Yeah,
best place to be.
It is the best place to be, and it's so. There's quite often with my I've got Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. That's the main thing, and that comes with a bunch of other conditions. So I've also got colitis, but that leaves me in pain quite a lot of time. But when I'm working, when I'm creating art, that disappears, and that is magical to me. To be able to escape my world and enter another space, it's profound.
What do you feel about the stereotype that artists are sort of I like to isolate themselves away a bit? Like, is that the same for you, or do you have to recharge your social battery for things like this? Or?
I do have to recharge my social battery. I've got a good group of friends, which is nice. But when I'm working, I do lock myself away, and I don't reach out as much as I should. I need people.
At a distance.
But yeah, I gain energy from social situations, but I find them tiring. So it's a balance. It's a balance for me. But definitely, while I'm in my work, I don't want people around me.
I love that. Well, but, there are distractions, and I know we're running short on time. You got a workshop in a bit, but when it comes to emotions and when you're working, do you work better when you're angry, when you're sad, when you're starved of ideas and somebody grabs you? I mean,
I think pressure is good for me.
Like a diamond.
Yeah. No, you said it, not me. No, I work well under pressure, but I don't know if there's a particular emotion. It's just I turn up and I work and I create and I produce, and there's stuff that I'm not happy with and it gets put aside, and that's fine. But I just show up and I work, and I cherry pick the best bits.
That's really, really good. Well, I think your work's amazing. I'm going to keep this short because I know you've got a lot to go on today. You've got lots going on. But I want to say thank you for inviting me along last night. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. But anytime you want to come on the Shrewsbury Biscuit to talk about your art, anytime you've got a show coming up and you want to talk about it, I want you to reach out, because I think you're fascinating what you're doing. I think you're inspiring other people as well, especially with the conditions you told me about your body and how you translate that through your art. That's really powerful.
Thank you.
Where can people sort of follow you and keep in touch with your trolls?
So yeah, Instagram is always a big one. I think I'm Jacob Chandler Art. I think that's my handle. But then also my website, jacobchandler.co.uk, and there's a mailing list on there that you can subscribe to, and then you get updates about when I'm doing things like this, and you'll get
Is there anything you can tell us you got coming up soon?
I've got a few small commissions that I'm working on. There's another couple of big things in the pipeline, but nothing signed. There are no contracts yet, so I don't want to shout about it yet and then have to come back in a month's time and say, oh yeah, it didn't happen. So
I was at New York last week. If you want to meet in Prague, brilliant. Well, thank you so much for chatting to me. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
And brilliant.
Yeah, cheers.
Thank you. And there we go. What a fantastic episode. I think you'll agree. Jacob is wonderful. He's such a great advocate for artists who I think wear their heart on the sleeve in such a positive way. And offer vulnerability in their work, which I think is really, really important. So thank you to both of those guys for chatting to me, and we will do more with Soulton Hall. I think it's really important to illustrate the importance of Shakespeare in Shropshire. So we'll put a bookmark onto that, and we'll come back to that at a later date. Absolutely. So yeah, I think it's really good to be an advocate for art in the way the Shrewsbury Biscuit is, and there's lots more to come as well. I spent the whole day at Swan Hill Studios, which is a coming together of artists in such a very exciting and positive way in Shrewsbury. And the next episode you're going to hear is with Sam Pooley-Stride, and that's going to be next week. She's amazing to speak to. I think she's wonderful. I mean, I just turn on the mic and she just switches it on. She's so brilliant, and I definitely through some questions that I actually wasn't expecting on that one, so you got that to look forward to. But we recorded 3 episodes at that studio, and it's such a nice spot for all creatives, including people like myself. The writing room there is so brilliant to record in because it's soundproof, almost soundproof. It's brilliant and it's great. So you got some great sounding podcasts to come from there. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. If this is your first time listening to the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast, please give us a follow on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and we're on TikTok too. Just give us a Google and follow us on your favourite social media. And like I said at the beginning of this podcast, if you know someone or if you are someone that wants to come on the Shrewsbury Biscuit, you don't have to be a world-shattering sculptor like Jacob. You don't have to have a business. If you've got an interesting story, you got something you want to chat about, then I think you're worthy of getting in touch with me. You can speak to me on the social medias, or you can email me at shrewsburybiscuitpodcast@gmail.com. But everything you need to know about me is at my website, which is theshrewsburybiscuitpodcast.co.uk. And my website is lovingly brought to me and you by Web Orchard. If you do need a website, go to them. They're wonderful. They'll turn your visions into reality, as long as it's nothing too heinous. I know what some of you like, but anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you on the next one with Sam Pooley-Stride. We've got some real great art and culture to dig into. This has been wonderful. Catch you next time. Peace out.